Good morning, all of you. I am Prince Mishra. I welcome you all on behalf of GSS Core in my online geography optional class. In last session, we have started discussion on monsoon, and in this lecture also, I will continue the same discussion of monsoon. In last lecture, we have discussed about some of the classical theory, and just we have started about some of the idea of modern theory, especially ITCZ. Now, this lecture is mainly discusses on most of the modern theories, modern concept related to the monsoon. Before directly delving into this discussion of theories, I will first trace some of the particularly history of this monsoonal studies, the contribution of some of the scientists, meteorologists in the field of monsoon. Monsoon is one of the most you can say studied complex meteorological phenomena not only of India but almost whole of the world. It is the intricacy and complex nature of monsoon, that's why still till today we have so many theories, so many research going on in this field, but still a new finding, new dimensions is emerging. Most of the time there is a lot of joke related to prediction of the monsoon, that our particularly predicting agency is not aptly giving the information, but it is not the lack of that particular agency. It is because of the complex nature of our monsoon that the prediction of monsoon is very difficult, particularly with the information, with the material that we have available for this monsoon. Almost for 300 years the idea of Halley was valid, but then you will have the ITCZ theory appeared given by Fawn and the new dimensions appeared. Now I will just trace the history of this monsoonal study and some of the contribution. Of course, we have contribution of Edmund Halley. He gave the idea of classical theory. Then we have idea of Fawn. Then almost there was a very devastating famine in 1877-78, and because of the famine issue, and this famine was mainly caused due to drought, very severe drought in 1876. So the IMD, in that British times, IMD was forced to develop some of the methodology for the prediction of the monsoon. So some form of the prediction started by 1886, some model of monsoonal prediction started. But the major development came when we have this gentleman, that is Gilbert Walker. He has been appointed as Director General of IMD. He was the Director General of IMD from 1904 to 1925. His one of the major contribution is referred as Walker cell or teleconnection. He very deeply studied and he concluded that this monsoon is not only getting affected by the phenomena that is happening in the Indian Ocean, rather we have some of the world level phenomena that is also affecting our monsoon. One of the very important phenomena in that perspective he studied was the very famous El Nino. So he studied the El Nino phenomena and he came out with this idea that the whatever is happening in the equatorial southern Pacific have a direct bearing over the Indian monsoon. And he studied about the seesaw pressure condition of southern Pacific and southern Indian Ocean equatorial region, and he developed a index which is referred as oscillation index, simply referred as SOI. So he has a great contribution in the form of teleconnection of the monsoon. Other than the Gilbert Walker, we have MTN, who is studied and who have great contribution in the form of role of jet. Also, it was the P. Koteshwaram who has studied extensively about the role of upper atmospheric circulation, especially the jet stream. Then again we have the role of Tibetan plateau, Tibetan jet, that was of course suggested by Koteshwaram but also extended by the Raman and Ramanathan. So these are the some of the contributors who have played very great role in our particularly understanding of monsoon. Of course we have very famous J. Find later. He also studied, and his studies on simply on the memory of J. Find later. We also have a Find later jet. Find later jet is nothing but simply the Somali jet. So his contribution is mainly associated with Somali jet stream. These are some of the individuals who have a great role in the study of monsoon and some of the monsoon findings. Other than these individuals, we are having a lot of intergovernmental expedition related to monsoon. Monsoon is, as it is one of the, you can say, studied topic. So many scientists, so many governments also have a keen interest in understanding this meteorological phenomena. First and foremost, very, you can say, famous expedition in the name of International Indian Ocean Expedition associated with study of monsoon happened in 1962 to 65. It was mainly under the collaboration of International Council of Scientific Union, that is ICSU, and World Meteorological Organization, that is WMO. So mainly it was a joint venture of ICSU and WMO. Later on, Indian government collaborated with the previous USSR, that is Soviet government, and we have very famous Indo-Soviet monsoon experiment, ISMEX program. It happened in two phases, 73 and 77. So these are the some of the programs, some of the research which have a lot of contribution in the field of monsoon. But the most important, you can say, intergovernmental expedition which have contributed a lot in this field is the program referred as MONEX, that is Monsoon Expedition. MONEX of 1979. In this MONEX or monsoon expedition, almost 45 countries have pooled the resources for this experiment. It was International Scientific of Council International Council of Scientific Union and World Weather Watch Program, WWW of World Meteorological Organization. So it is again mainly collaborated between ICSU and WMO under the World Weather Watch Program. So most of the outcome, most of the intricacies have appeared in this MONEX. So the one of the very interesting feature of this expedition was, in that year monsoon was very erratic in nature. So in a way it was a failure of monsoon or failure of expedition, but because there was a failure, so there appears a lot of new insight. In fact, if you can understand it better way, you must be following some of the particularly games, like I like the very much cricket game. In that cricket game, let's say you are just focusing to some any individual, any player, and that player is your monsoon. So when your whole focus is to that particular great player, and great player is performing very good, but most of the time you will see that if the player is performing very well and the people around that player is not performing very well, the end result will not be as fruitful. In other words, you can say most of the games happens to be the teamwork. Similarly, monsoon, our initial understanding was that monsoon is an independent phenomenon. But after this monsoon expedition and some of the other findings, it came out that monsoon is not an independent phenomenon. Monsoon is greatly affected by so many other phenomena, and until and unless all the other phenomena that are related with monsoon will be good, will be enhanced, will be strengthened, the monsoon will not be bringing good rainfall in India. And of course, in first lecture itself, I have talked about the importance of monsoonal rainfall for the Indian country. So in a way, to study the monsoon, to know about the monsoon, you need to know about their friends and their foes. You need to know about what are the different aspects that are getting mostly bringing some changes to monsoon, or what are the some of the phenomena that is getting affected by the monsoon. So most of the modern theories, these are not the theories, these are simply some of the roles being played by some other entities, some other phenomena that has direct bearing over the monsoon. So it is the outcome of all these research programs that we have so much information about the monsoon. As far as modern concept is concerned, most of the modern monsoon concept is related with role of ITCZ, a role of jet stream. Jet stream is nothing but it is the upper atmospheric circulation. Then role of El Nino and La Nina. Then role of fine later jet. Role of Tibetan jet. Also role of Indian Ocean dipole. Also we have role of Madden-Julian oscillation, MJO. So the monsoon is getting affected by all these entities. When all these phenomena will work together, then only best of monsoon will come out. Of course, their effect is not same. So, some of the particular phenomena have positive effect, some of the phenomena have negative effect. So, depending upon positive or negative effect, when the phenomena has positive effect, so when the phenomena will get strengthened, the monsoon will get strengthened, that is the monsoonal rainfall will get strengthened. In this video, in this lecture, I will talk about all these phenomena starting from this jet stream, that is upper atmospheric circulation. Now, we will move to our discussion about the modern concept of monsoon, starting from this role of jet stream. This jet stream is simply upper atmospheric circulation. Upper atmospheric circulation near tropopause. So, the fast moving wind that moves from west to east under the influence of westerly near the tropopause is simply termed as jet stream. Generally, if you will think of particularly tri-meridional model, in that tri-meridional model we have 3 cells, and we have 3 cells, that is Hadley cell, Ferrel cell and polar cell. So, we have Hadley, we have Ferrel and we have polar cell. At the boundary zones, so we have 2 boundary zones, one boundary zone of Hadley and Ferrel and the other boundary zone at Ferrel and polar. At the boundary zone in upper atmosphere, a new movement will start, and that new movement, that new upper atmospheric circulation, that is mainly will start due to variation of temperature, variation of pressure is simply referred as jet stream. So, in this way there will be 2 different places where the upper atmospheric circulation will start. One at the boundary zone of Hadley and Ferrel, the other at the boundary zone of Ferrel and polar. So, because these are 2 different at 2 different places, that is why we name it with 2 different names. So, the upper atmospheric circulation that starts at the boundary zone of Ferrel and Hadley is simply referred as subtropical jet stream, whereas the one starts at the boundary of polar and Ferrel is simply referred as polar jet stream. So, near the poles we have polar jet stream, in the mid latitude, in the lower subtropical region we have the particularly subtropical jet stream. The normal location of these subtropical jet stream is 35 to 40 degree latitude. As far as polar is concerned, that will be in the near subpolar area. Depending upon the Indian location, the mainland's location, the Himalayas location, polar jet streams are way beyond it. So, polar jet stream has no direct bearing over the climates of India, whereas the subtropical jet stream, their normal position is also very near, and when it will migrate little bit, let us say northward or southward, it will have direct bearing over the Indian mainland. So, of course, we have a 2 jet stream, but as far as our discussion is concerned, we are only concerned about subtropical jet stream. So, we call it as subtropical jet stream. Also, the jet stream moves from west to east under the influence of westerly. That's why we also call it as subtropical westerly jet stream. Subtropical westerly jet stream. Now you can visualize that in northern side of northern plain we have the Himalayan mountain and we have the Tibet region. The normal position of subtropical westerly jet stream is around 35-40 degree north. But as the winter season will appear, at the winter season will start, these subtropical westerly jet will move southward. The moment these subtropical westerly jet will move southward, they almost will come under the influence of Himalayan mountain and the Tibet. Due to physiography of this region, these particular south subtropical westerly jet, once it will come under the influence, will get bifurcated, will get channelized. It will get channelized, it will get bifurcated, and one branch of this subtropical westerly jet will start moving in northward and the other one in the form of southward. So there will be a presence of subtropical westerly jet south of Himalaya and Tibet, almost most part of the northern plain. This is a winter position. During winter season, subtropical westerly jet moving from the particularly west to east will appear, and due to physiographic position of Hindu Kush mountain, other mountains, it will get channelized, bifurcated in two branches, and one branch will start blowing north of Himalaya, north of Tibet, and other one is south of Himalaya and south of Tibet. These subtropical westerly jet streams are mostly cyclonic in nature in upper atmosphere. When they have the cyclonic in nature in upper atmosphere, over the ground, their tendency will be that there will be anticyclonic condition. In other words, you can say, over the ground, due to presence of this subtropical westerly jet, anticyclonic condition will prevail. An anticyclonic condition is simply your high pressure. So due to the presence of these subtropical westerly jet over the ground, most part of the country, in Punjab, in Haryana, in Delhi, in Rajasthan, high pressure condition will prevail, and high pressure condition is not suitable for the rainfall. So most of the country, due to this presence, northern side, due to this presence of subtropical westerly jet will come under the high pressure region, and due to the presence of high pressure, what will happen? The dry condition will prevail. These subtropical westerly jet in a way are nothing but they are the cyclonic condition, that is the temperate cyclone, and these temperate cyclone are developing in the Mediterranean region. So from the Mediterranean region, these cyclonic condition will be brought over to this Indian mainland by this subtropical westerly jet, and as these particularly cyclone, temperate cyclone will be brought. Temperate cyclone will have some moisture. So the rainfall will be brought by this subtropical westerly jet in the northern part of the country during the winter season. And the same rainfall which is carried out by this subtropical westerly jet during the winter season in India is referred as western disturbances. So western disturbances simply brought by this subtropical westerly jet. So now this western disturbances brings rainfall of very small amount, but it's a very widespread. Why the widespread? The reason is very much clear from this diagram itself, because this rainfall is carried out by this subtropical westerly jet, and the subtropical westerly jet is almost present in most of the part of the country. So you have the state like Rajasthan, Punjab, Delhi, Haryana, eastern UP, some part of Assam, even the state like particularly your Meghalaya and Arunachal, Nagaland, they also receives very small amount of rainfall. Of course, the amount of rainfall is very less, but it's a very useful for the particularly Rabi crop, especially the particular gram and wheat. So it helps in wheat sowing and gram sowing. Also, some of the Himalayan state like Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh receives snowfall due to this subtropical westerly jet. So this is the winter's condition. When the summer condition will prevail, when there will be onset of the summer season starting from first week of April, the ground heating will start. Due to ground heating, the air will become warm and light, and when this warm and light air will try to rise, because over the ground due to high heating, let's say we are talking about the month of April. So due to high heating over the ground, the air will try to rise. But this rising air will get obstructed by this presence of southern branch of subtropical westerly jet. So we have the month of April. April month is a high heating month. So April month has started, but still the southern branch of subtropical westerly jet is still present on the south side of the Himalaya, or you can say most part of Indian mainland. Due to presence of this subtropical westerly jet, the ground high pressure, the ground anticyclonic condition is not dissipating. So in spite of having very high temperature, Rajasthan will experience temperature of more than 45 degree. Some places we have the temperature of 48, 49. Most part of Delhi will also have temperature above than 45. But in spite of having such a huge high temperature, still the ground have high pressure condition. So in spite of having so much high temperature, still the ground has high pressure. And if the ground has high pressure, the winds which should induced from the Indian Ocean will not get induced, and still the country will not receive the monsoonal rainfall. So this jet stream concept try to explain one of the very important complexity in the monsoon explanation, that why the monsoonal rainfall is not happening in the month of April and May. Because if simply monsoon is the resultant of differential heating of land and ocean, so the monsoonal rainfall should start by the month of April, or you can say at max by the month of May, but still the monsoon is not appearing till the month of June. So it is mainly due to the presence of this subtropical westerly jet stream. By the last week of May, almost 27, 28th May, when the sun will have comparatively shifted in northward, due to this shifting of northward, this southern branch of subtropical westerly jet, this southern branch of subtropical westerly jet will migrate northward. So whole of the subtropical westerly jet will go northward. As this subtropical westerly jet will go northward, the above cyclonic condition will dissipate, The moment above cyclonic condition will dissipate, the ground will develop low pressure, because ground has already high heating, so much high heating, and the moment ground will develop low pressure, there will be a, you can say, coincidence of arriving ITCZ. Of course, the ITCZ have started migrating by the month of May itself. But in spite of presence of ITCZ in Indian mainland, the low pressure over the northern plains central India was not getting developed, mainly due to the presence of subtropical westerly jet. As these subtropical westerly jet will move northward, suddenly the ground low pressure will develop, and once the ground low pressure will develop, then the southeasterly will move northward and crosses the equator and will get affected by the Coriolis and will bring the rainfall in Indian mainland. So, one of the most important key role is being played by this upper atmospheric circulation. This upper atmospheric circulation is one of the reasons. Now, at the same time, there was also a very great question has been raised, that of course we have the pressure gradient over the ground, but this pressure gradient is not sufficient to maintain this movement of the wind, the movement of the wind that is happening over the surface for this such long period of time. There should be some other energy source. So, what are the other energy sources that are continuously almost forcing this southwesterly wind to move from Indian Ocean to the Indian mainland for next 3 to 4 months? Because the monsoonal rainfall will start in the month of June and it will continue till the month of September. So, June, July, August, September. So, there will be a 4-month continuous rainfall. So, there is a 4-month continuous supply of southwesterly trade wind. Now, is it only because of the temperature and pressure variation between the particularly Indian Ocean and the mainland? No, it is not only because of that. There is some of the role being played by the upper atmospheric condition. Now, here briefly, of course, that will be discussed in great detail in some other lecture, but briefly you just need to understand, whenever the air will rise, air will get cooled. So, the rising air will get cooled, and once it will get sufficiently cooled and also it will have the moisture, then the condensation will happen. Whenever there is a release, whenever there is a condensation, there will be a release of energy, and that release of energy is referred as latent heat of condensation. So, it is the rising air, rainfall, and at that same time the condensation, the supply of latent heat, that is the mostly responsible for movement of upper atmospheric circulation. So, due to high rate of heating condensation, there will be a very great movement of upper atmospheric wind. Upper atmospheric wind will move, and once upper atmospheric circulation will reaches to the ocean, it will forces the ground level winds to move continuously. So, it is not only the ground that is moving, rather if you can just try to relate it in this diagram, let us say this is southwesterly wind. Now, the southwesterly wind, let us say it is Indian Ocean and it is Indian mainland. Southwesterly winds are continuously coming from Indian Ocean to Indian mainland, but it is not only because of the pressure condition and the temperature condition at these two places, but because also there is some other simultaneous movement, and there is some other simultaneous movement in the form of particularly upper atmospheric movement. What this upper atmospheric movement is doing? This upper atmospheric movement is reaching from above of Indian mainland to this Indian Ocean. And this upper atmospheric movement is simply referred as jet stream. Sometimes also referred as low level jet, sometimes also referred as tropospheric temperature. So like we have a pressure variation between Indian Ocean to Indian mainland. So there is a pressure variation between Indian Ocean to Indian mainland. In the summer season, there will be high pressure over Indian Ocean and low pressure over Indian mainland. Similarly, there will be a heat source and heat sink. So at the same time, there will be a heat source and heat sink. This low pressure zone, whole of this zone will act like a heat source, whereas this zone of high pressure, Indian Ocean, nearby Madagascar, Mascarene Island will act like heat sink. So simply from this heat source, the air will rise, it will go up to the tropopause level, and from there it will get channelized, and it will get channelized in the form of this movement, and then it will sink near this southern Indian Ocean. And then from this southern Indian Ocean, the ground southwesterly move. The ground southwesterly, the one which is mainly responsible for causing a rainfall. So the rainfall is an interplay not only between the ocean and the land, but also between the ocean, land and atmosphere. That's why monsoon is not a simply ocean land phenomena, rather it's a three-way. It's ocean, land and atmospheric phenomena. This particular jet stream, which is mostly start from the India, Tibetan region, and it mostly moves toward the Indian Ocean and sink nearby Mascarene Island, is simply referred as Tibetan jet stream. Tibetan jet streams also sometimes referred as, because Tibetan jet stream was mainly studied by the Koteshwaram, that's why it is also sometimes referred as Koteshwaram jet stream. So we have the Tibetan jet stream or simply Koteshwaram jet stream. Tibetan jet stream will start from the Tibet. Due to high heating of the Tibet, the air will rise. These air that will rise, once it will go in above atmosphere, there will be a strong divergence. Due to the strong divergence, the air will rise, and once it will go in atmosphere, there will be a strong divergence. These diverging air will get channelized, and these channelized movement, the movement of upper atmospheric, will go, and there will be a sinking, descending near the southern Indian Ocean, nearby the Madagascar island, that is in the form of Mascarene high, and this upper atmospheric movement is referred as Tibetan jet stream. Tibetan jet stream also plays very important role in the development of monsoon. But one thing that you need to understand, because as I said that these upper atmospheric circulation is being energized primarily by latent heat of condensation. So latent heat of condensation will only be available when there is a very high condensation or rainfall. So the subtropical westerly jet, it plays very important role in the monsoon. So subtropical westerly jet will move northward and then the rainfall will start by the 1st June, general onset date of the monsoon. Once the rainfall will start, once the monsoon will arrive in India, then there will be a development onset of the Tibetan jet. And once the Tibetan jet will develop, what it will do? It will help in strengthening the monsoon. So monsoon has already appeared, rainfall has already happening. But this intensity of the rainfall, the amount of rainfall, which suddenly increases when this particularly Tibetan jet will get strengthened. So it will play a very important role in strengthening the monsoon. But sometime if Tibetan jet stream has not well developed, has not fully developed, then definitely it will have, you can say, negative effect. So when the Tibetan jet will be fully developed, well established, the Indian monsoon will have strengthening nature, good rainfall. But if the Tibetan jet has not fully developed, well developed, then the rainfall will be comparatively get hampered. Now the question arises, why this Tibetan jet will not develop or less intensified development? Because this Tibetan jet is associated with the heating, and Tibet is very vast, very extensive plateau, almost 4,000, it is having 4,000 meter elevation from the ground, and it's having very extensive 4,000 square kilometer area, very extensive area. Because of this highland, it's a kind of plateau, it's a tableland. Because of this nature of the tableland, the plateau will get intensively heated, and once it will get intensively heated, then only this Tibetan jet will develop. But in some season, let's say in winter season, if we have very strong development of snow cover in this Tibet, then the snow cover melting and the clearing of snow will take a lot of time. And let's say sometimes it will be a late March also, still you will have whole of the Tibet has not cleared off. And when you will have the snowfall or snow cover will be extensive, then definitely it will take a lot of time in the heating. And if it will take a lot of time in the heating, then particularly development of the Tibetan jet will get hampered. So simply, development of Tibetan jet is in one way or other is also very much associated with snowfall or snow cover over Tibet. If you will have very good, very high snowfall or cover, then definitely there will be a less intensified Tibetan jet. But when you will have comparatively not that very good or high snow cover, then definitely this Tibetan jet will get intensified. So in a way, it also helps in the monsoon prediction. By just looking out the snow cover over the Tibet, you can say this year's monsoon will be comparatively good, or it will have very less effect over the Indian monsoon. If let's say in this year, in the month of February, March, still the particularly Tibetan snow cover has not cleared off, definitely you can say this year Tibetan jet will be less stronger, and if Tibetan jet will be less stronger, it simply means the monsoon will be comparatively lesser in its strength. So that is the most important role of both jet stream and the Tibetan jet. This subtropical westerly jet and the Tibet jet stream has almost solved the most important puzzle, because when we have started our discussion of monsoon, then in first case we learned that the monsoon is the resultant of differential heating of land and ocean. But the heating will start in the month of, you can say, April and May itself. Why there is no rainfall till the 1st June? So then you will have the theory of ITCZ. ITCZ has solved the problem that why the rainfall is not stopping in spite of decrease in the temperature, but still ITCZ was not helpful in explaining this idea that why the rainfall is not happening in the month of April and May. This problem has been solved only by this jet stream. Now we have the jet stream, we have the ITCZ, we have the particularly differential heating. If you will combine, then you will realize that most of the intricacies of monsoon will get solved. But in some year, might we will have the Tibetan jet stream is developed, subtropical jet stream moving northward, differential heating is present, pressure is developing good at masculine high, but still the rainfall is getting affected. Rainfall will get affected. It can be get affected by the positive or neutral or negative, but yes, it will get affected. Now, how this rainfall is getting affected, it was very elaborately studied by the very famous Gilbert Walker. We call it as teleconnection. So now next we will move to the discussion of teleconnection, a role of El Nino. Of course, we are not going to discuss in detail this El Nino, we will only cover our Indian monsoon. El Nino is an oceanic phenomenon. In simple word, when we will discuss oceanography, then we will talk about the ocean current. But for now, just understand that we have the oceanic current in different part of the world. In the southern part of South America, in the western side, there is a cold oceanic current, that is Peru current, Peruvian cold current. This Peruvian cold current, because of this nature of the current, because it's a cold current, so temperature will be lesser, pressure will be high. So in southern Pacific equatorial region, there will be a high pressure in normal year. And of course, if you will have high pressure, so the nearby region will have comparatively lesser or almost desert-like condition. We have very famous Atacama desert. So in normal year, southern Pacific will have high pressure. But in once in a 3-4 year, this cold Peruvian current will turn into warm Peruvian current. And this warm Peruvian current almost coincides with Christmas time. So because it happens during the Christmas time, that's why it got this name, that is El Nino. So El Nino is nothing, it is simply the warm oceanic current that is appearing off the coast of Peru. El Nino is simply a Spanish word which simply refers to child Christ. Now initially this El Nino was thought to be a regional phenomenon, that it is only affecting the most of the part of the southern Pacific. But when the Walker studied extensively this phenomena, he found that this El Nino is not a regional phenomena only, rather it is having a global ramification. And it is almost, you can say, it is the best example of ocean, land, atmosphere phenomenon. It's a mostly oceanic phenomena because there is a warming up of the Peru current, and then it will have ramification of the atmosphere, that is change in the atmospheric pressure condition, temperature condition, and then there is a change in the rainfall over the land. So it was basically studied extensively by the Gilbert Walker. Gilbert Walker, when he studied the particularly two different places, the southern part of equatorial South Pacific and the equatorial South Indian Ocean, he found there is a some of the pressure condition. Pressure condition in South Equatorial, particularly Indian Ocean, is a low pressure, whereas in Southern Pacific it is a high pressure. But over the period of time, these pressure condition gets changed. And why it gets changed? Due to this presence of El Nino, definitely. So there is a change in the pressure condition, and this changing pressure condition he termed it as a oscillation. And because it is happening in the southern part of the ocean, that's why he referred it as southern oscillation. And to study that southern oscillation, he prepared index, and index was based at two different places. He suggested Darwin, that is in northern Australia. It will represent the Indian Ocean part, southern Indian Ocean. And Tahiti, which lies in French Polynesia, it will represent the southern Pacific. So he simply suggested that there is a pressure condition, and pressure condition is such that there is a high pressure, there is a low pressure, and because of this high pressure and low pressure, there is a cyclic movement. This cyclic movement of the air, Gilbert termed it as Walker circulation. So Walker circulation is nothing. It is simply the circulation between southern part of southern Indian Ocean and the southern part of South Pacific. So in Tahiti there is a high pressure, in Darwin there is a low pressure. The wind will move from this Tahiti to Darwin, and in Darwin there will be a rising, and then you will have the sinking at Tahiti. These two pressure differences, two places, he termed it as oscillation index because it's in south, so he termed it as southern oscillation index. So he prepared a southern oscillation index to study the pressure condition of Darwin and Tahiti. The southern oscillation index that he prepared is also associated with El Nino, and because it is associated with El Nino, it is referred as ENSO. So southern oscillation index, simply the pressure difference between Tahiti and Darwin, and Tahiti and Darwin's pressure difference will be positive in normal years. And when you will study the southern oscillation index with respect to El Nino, it will be simply referred as El Nino southern oscillation index. What he found, during the normal year, when Tahiti is having high pressure and Darwin is having low pressure, in the next season, because this situation will prevail in the winter season of India. We are in northern hemisphere, so our winter will be the month of November, December, January. Whereas the southern hemisphere, these places, French Polynesia or Pacific or Australia, will have summer season. So in the month of December, January, there will be a summer season in these places. So whatever the condition, if you will have low pressure has developed in Darwin, so in next season, the Indian monsoon will be good. And when we say good Indian monsoon, means we have a good rainfall. So when you will have the normal condition, that is high pressure at Tahiti and low pressure at Darwin, there will be a good monsoonal rainfall in India. But what he observed, that whenever there is a El Nino year. Now how the El Nino year will appear? El Nino year will simply appear in the form of warm ocean current, and when the warm ocean current will appear, the pressure condition will get changed. So the Tahiti's high pressure will turn out to be a low pressure, and the low pressure of Darwin will turn out to be a high pressure. In other words, you can say the SOI which was positive in normal year now will become negative SOI. The moment SOI will become negative, the pressure at Darwin will become high pressure. What will happen to the India is simply bad or less rainfall. So there is a simple correlation. In normal year, Indian rainfall will be good. In El Nino year, the Indian rainfall will get affected, hampered. Direct bearing. In other words, you can say El Nino is also associated with drought-like condition. It is associated with the drought-like condition. Also here you need to understand one very important thing. This El Nino will have three phases. Neutral phase, negative phase, and positive phase. So when we have the normal condition, that is Tahiti having high pressure and Darwin having low pressure, then we are having neutral rainfall in India. The Indian monsoon will not get affected by this teleconnection or this condition of Tahiti. But when there is a El Nino year, these conditions will get reversed. High pressure will get turned low pressure will get turned high pressure, rainfall will get affected. So there will be a negative. Negative simply means Indian monsoonal rainfall will almost gets affected. Then you will have next phenomena, that is La Nino. Now in the La Nino, the previous condition will prevail but with greater intensity. So this high pressure will get very stronger. So we have strong high pressure. So once you will have strong high pressure, there will be a low pressure at Darwin, but of course this low pressure will get intense low pressure. And as this low pressure will get intense, what will happen? We will move to the third phase, that is positive. So simply this El Nino will plays very important role in Indian monsoon, mainly related to the three different phases. When there is a normal year, there will be a neutral phase. When there is a El Nino year, there will be a negative effect. When there is a La Nina, there will be a positive effect. And also one thing that you need to understand, which we have learned in the Tibetan case also, that it helps in the prediction also. So let's say if you will have La Nina, if you will have El Nino, that El Nino appeared in the month of December, January, February in Australia, in Peru. So definitely you can predict that this year's monsoonal rainfall in India will get affected. So whenever you will have El Nino and La Nina, you can do the prediction. So in general, if you can simply try to understand, you can say El Nino is associated by less rainfall or drought condition, and La Nina is associated with high rainfall or simply flood like condition. But do these particular relation holds true for every time? The answer is no. Of course, most of the time they will hold true, but sometime these phenomena will not be associated. Like we have very good example, 1997, it was the El Nino year. And it was the El Nino year, so it was expected that this year's rainfall of India will be lesser. But that year, Indian monsoonal rainfall, the average annual rainfall was not only normal, but also it was little bit above than the average normal. So the question has been raised that what is the reason, why? So here, of course, I will tell you what is the reason, but in general you also need to understand most of the time these El Nino and La Nina will have association like this. So whenever you will have El Nino, you will have negative effect. Whenever you will have La Nina, you will have positive effect. But sometimes there can be a variation. This variation was visible in 1997 and then it was studied, researched, and the outcome was simply in the form of Indian Ocean dipole. In that year, it was the Indian Ocean dipole which have affected the Indian monsoon. So because of the strengthening nature of Indian Ocean dipole, the Indian monsoon was you can say intensified, and El Nino's effect has been negated. So now briefly, quickly, we will learn that what is this Indian Ocean dipole. As the term itself is concerned, that is dipole, so we have something related to two different poles. In general, this two pole is associated with the equatorial region. So in equatorial region, in the Indian Ocean, there will be a two different zone, eastern zone and the western zone. In other words, you can say the western water, and of course this western water will represented by this Arabian Sea, whereas the eastern water will be referred by the Andaman Sea and Bay of Bengal. So it is simply the temperature condition. It is simply the difference of the temperature. Difference of the temperature between the western oceanic water, western Indian Oceanic water and the eastern Indian Oceanic water. When the western oceanic water temperature will be more, so it will be referred as positive Indian Ocean dipole. It will be referred as positive Indian Ocean dipole. When you will have more temperature in this particular part, that is eastern Indian Ocean, southern Indian Ocean, then it will be referred as negative Indian Ocean dipole. So if the temperature is more in the western part of Indian Ocean equatorial region, it will be positive IOD. If it is lesser, more here, then it will be negative IOD. Now because most of the rainfall in India is caused by the southwesterly wind. Now when these southwesterly winds are moving towards India after crossing Arabian Sea, if there will be high temperature over the Arabian Sea, what will happen? Because of this high temperature, there will be more and more evaporation, more and more availability of the moisture. So the winds are moving and winds are getting more and more moisture. So the winds are getting fed by the moisture. Ultimately what will happen? There will be a more moisture, and that moisture will be primarily brought to India in the form of rainfall. Whereas when the temperature will be lesser, means pressure is more, so you will have more and more cooling. So the winds are moving, and from ground you will have more and more cooling. So the wind, some part of the wind itself will get cooled, and the most moisture bearing capacity of that particular part of air will get lessened, and because of that the particularly effect of rainfall will be lesser. So whenever there is a positive IOD, what will happen? Good rainfall. If you will have negative IOD, then there will be a less rainfall. So in 1997 it was the positive IOD which have almost affected the Indian monsoon. If you can see through this diagram, in this diagram you can see in this western side the water is warmer, and when the water is warmer, on the other side we have the colder water. So because of this warmer water, here you will have, in this part you will have heavy rainfall. Consequently in this part you will have less rainfall or drought like condition. So it is the positive phase, positive Indian Ocean dipole phase. Whereas during the negative phase, what will happen? Here you will have the colder water, in this side you will have the warmer water. When you will have the colder water, this year will experience drought like condition, whereas this particular area will receive heavy rainfall. So this changing temperature of eastern or western equatorial water plays a very important role in the particularly Indian monsoon, and in fact this is a very recent finding. This is a very new insight in the Indian monsoon. Almost it has changed most of our perspective related to monsoon. So monsoon is not only controlled by the differential heating, rather it is also affected by the ITCZ, it is also affected by the subtropical westerly jet, we simply call it as westerly jet. Also it is controlled by the easterly jet. Also there will be a shifting of Hadley cell. Also there will be a teleconnection related to El Nino, La Nina and the Indian Ocean dipole. So these are some of the intricacies, some of the particularly you can say friend or foes of the particularly Indian monsoon. Until unless you will have idea of all these phenomena, you will never able to understand what is the dynamics of the monsoon. Why you will have some part of the country are receiving good rainfall or some part of the country receiving less rainfall. Why in spite of having El Nino, still you will have some of the rainfall is continuously happening. So in this lecture we have understood most of the phenomena, most of the particularly theories that are affecting the Indian monsoon. Now in last lecture we will learn the rainfall pattern and some of the changing rainfall pattern in last 4 to 5 years in India, and also in this changing pattern do we have some role of climate change also, or it is purely a natural aspect of the changing dynamics of monsoon. So that we will discuss in last part. Thank you everyone for listening patiently. Thank you.